History was made in the horseshoe. Ohio State survives. They didn't just survive. They dominated to advance in the college football playoff. I was teasing. All right. It's a setup. This is Bobby Carpenter. Brad Robinson is here. Nicole Cox. I am Austin Ward. We are at Roosters. It is a fun casual joint, and it is a fun Monday to be in Columbus, Ohio. Dominant performance. 42-17 win over Tennessee, setting up the Buckeyes to head out to the Rose Bowl for that rematch with Oregon. We're going to talk everything about that win and emphatic victory. The only thing that surprised me on Saturday night, Nicole, was that Bob did not wear the starter jacket.
RJ did, though, and he looked fantastic.
I just wanted to see Bob wear it.
He looked great.
I put it on. It fit for the most part, but it's a large. Like, it's crazy how much bigger the stuff was made 25 years ago. But he needed a red coat, and so I could wear my varsity jacket, and he could wear that. We all had the red on for the red out, the scarlet the shoe.
Yeah.
And it was an unbelievable environment. I'll be honest, like it was kind of weird walking around a night game, tailgating. I got down at about 4:20, 4:15, and it was like already like turning dark. You know, like I'm not sure really what to do with this right now. Like, we're gonna be walking around because even when the night games in the summer, 8 o'clock game, it's still light out early in the season. And so to have it like darkness and you're walking around like tailgating at dark and it's full parking lot, people are pulling in. Worried about people like some of the older Buckeye fans maybe hitting a patron or two.
As long as they're wearing orange, it's fine, right?
Well, and that was okay.
There was plenty of that to light up the night.
Well, at the fan tailgate, we had to bow some people up and throw them out of the porta-john. I mean, they kept trying to go in there. And it's like, this isn't a public bathroom.
Get out of here.
Those are up there. There's some over there.
Unless you're wearing scarlet.
And they got exactly. It's like, why? Because you're a Tennessee fan.
Yeah, get out of here.
If you're an Ohio State fan that politely asks to use the facilities, great. But first of all, they were just going in, which I'm like, all right, that's not happening. You go in again, I'm going to shut the door and dump it on you. So, Buckeyes. But yeah, going in there, unbelievable. Like, before we get to the game, probably, what was your guess, Austin? 25%, maybe 30%? Like, the orange is a sharp color for percentage.
So I think some of the totals that were mentioned on the broadcast were inflated because if you formed an opinion about what percentage of the crowd was going to be Tennessee based on
the visitor side had a lot more.
Yeah, when the gates opened, the people that came in were 100% wearing orange.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes even before kickoff, it was still looking like, is the Scarlet going to show up? Once the game started, once the stadium was full, I think it was 70 to 75%.
I give him 25% max. I got out around campus around 2. I started the tailgating early.
It's good.
And
Did you make it?
I did. I made it. Survived the game. It was good.
Congratulations. That is.
But I think the Buckeye fans showed some veteran experience of, hey, it's cold, games at night. We don't need to get out there
don't need to peel our shirts off for warm-ups.
They don't need to do any of that. So, like, because I didn't see, even like out and around campus and around in town, it was all orange till honestly 5 o'clock, I would say, and then the Buckeye fans came.
I think there was like a number of fans here, like around. It'd been interesting if the Olentangy place was still open.
It would have been overrun.
We were at the Rusty Bucket on Lane, and there's those hotels right across the street, and it was packed at noon.
Well, and like you said, this is our home city, so people could have left their homes right before the game to go to the game. We Tennessee fans, once they kind of were out and about, they had to go into the stadium, you know. So
and they did.
I was amazed the amount of tailgate spots they got, like close ones, east and west lot.
Which is that is shocking, but we also have to remember this is a bowl game, so both teams go to their bowl game. You know, this isn't like just a normal Ohio State home game. It was definitely a bowl game, so I think Buckeye Nation showed up.
Well, that's what getting to it. Once the game got going, and now granted there was a lot to cheer about, but I didn't notice the Tennessee fans at all. Like, it was one of the loudest environments.
Well, they were
the first 2 snaps of us on offense. I heard it, and then we drove down the field. I never heard it again.
Yeah, they were silenced pretty quickly.
And it was loud. Like, the environment, the athletic department, Ross Bjork and the whole crew, I give them a lot of credit.
Yes.
Like, the in-game experience. I mean, if you were an epileptic, it may not have been great. There was a lot of lights, a lot of flashing.
Might need to adjust that.
No, more. Turned up. I mean, it was awesome. It reminded me. I went down to the Tennessee-Georgia game in Athens, and that was what it looked like. I was like, man, this is great. They got music going. There's like lights going, like just a lot of energy permeating throughout the stadium. And so from the tailgating scene to in the stadium, they did the NIL event in the recruiting room, which I thought went really well. I mean, you had every type of broadcast you could possibly have with ESPN. AJ's running around down there with Pat on the sideline. I mean, it was a fun time. Chanting AJ Hawk in the South stands.
Which is amazing.
They loved it. It was great. Like, I thought that the environment, even outside of the game, was as good as you were going to get.
We've mentioned a few times, Brad, going back to Oregon, that like Ohio State, Ross Bjork, the athletic department, had been taking notes. It's like, oh, why don't we have this in the horseshoe? Why don't we do this and that? Like, we need to improve the in-game atmosphere. From the moment that Brutus got his own introduction and got to go pop up on that podium and the pedestal and lead an OHIO chant, I was like, oh, they did take some notes. They did actually apply
They
this.
did a great job, and like to spring forward that, and I think a lot of it honestly comes down to, a lot of it comes from I think the ads and just the administration stuff. So I think a lot of this, I think we had more liberty to do with what we wanted to do, and I think hopefully you see all the people in their desk and office chairs up in the administration building kind of see this and like, hey, next year, like, we got to feed more into this and do more like that. And I think Ross is doing a great job with that.
I just hope that the next time that they play a team with burnt orange, that game is in the evening as well. Because the time of the venue, the lights hit a little different when the backdrop is a pitch black night, you know, as opposed to a noon kick where you're like trying to get out there and get it going. So I don't know how that's going to work. I know I don't want to fast forward next year, but I mean, for that environment, if you could replicate that to open the season against the Longhorns, it would be unreal.
Yeah, I mean, I
agree.
I think maybe the college football playoff folks and the organizers will have to look at that and the atmosphere at all four sites. People have been critical of the way that the game's played and the lopsided nature of all four of them. But that's like everything building up to it was phenomenal at the Horseshoe.
Well, I think part of
the second round, I think, needs to be on campus as well.
100%. I think having a home, I think the home game matters. If you go look, if Indiana, we get all real quick on all four of them. If you look, Indiana, if they score instead of throwing that interception at the beginning, I don't know if the outcome is different, but I think the game plays a lot differently. They've got a lead. All of a sudden, you can dictate tempo a little bit. I mean, SMU drove the ball in Penn State. They just chose to be very generous then when they got into the red zone and giving the ball away. But they had chances to score and keep that thing close. But once you felt like you made a mistake, like the tidal wave of energy was coming over top of you. And that's a credit to the home site fans and why it's such a benefit to have those games at home and why that matters to be able to play well enough to get the home seed. And people keep talking, well, why does non-conference matter? If you get a big non-conference win, like, that should be a delineator. Like, playing those games should be the difference between getting that home game and not.
Nicole, all right, that's the atmosphere. It was great, and kudos to both programs. Their fan bases made that really special. Once the game started, this has been something that you've talked about all year. Like, once Ohio State, the players on November 30th, that's how we'll refer to it, they gave everything to that game. And they did that again, and there was a better plan to go with it. So once everyone was fully aligned, like the buy-in was there, the execution was there. That's what you've been saying all year. Once they get this thing rolling, look out.
I said last week, you know, there was some question when you give it your all, when you give it everything you have and you want it so badly and it ended the way it did. I understand why that's confusing because that's not how it's supposed to work. But I think it gave them.
Life isn't fair, Nicole.
I don't know.
That's the moral of life.
You're right. I agree with that. But I do agree with giving it your all. There's something else that is supposed to happen. And what that game did for these guys was like, we were given one more chance to win inside the stadium. And now we're making it one step further in the playoffs. And hopefully we're looking at it that way because we do better when we do that. Like, we're thankful for this opportunity and we're going to go out there and we're going to play with the talent that we have and not overanalyze it and not look too much into it and not let the pressure get to us. Just give it our best. And that's what happened at the game on Saturday. And it was incredible. And you could see it. You could see how badly the guys wanted it. And I'm just so glad they got to leave on a win, the seniors.
Yeah. The emotion they played with, Brad, was like, you couldn't ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, I was right there behind the bench, third row. I think I saw Bobby on the sideline a little bit around, like, so he was feeling it.
And his binoculars. They look
Talked to a lot of guys.
You get a very clear look at the game.
Talked to a lot of guys yesterday and like right after the game, and the biggest thing they talked about is it's as cliche as it sounds, is they had a lot of fun, and you could tell the energy was there, which is something they need. But when you dominate a team in a big game, the atmosphere was great. It feeds in. Like, there's no better feeling to take into these next games than what they did and that confidence and how they kind of went through it. So I think that's really good. It's when you get up early. For me, it was like the most stress-free game I've watched all season. I felt like we were up 3 scores in the first quarter. I was just enjoying myself. It was an enjoyable atmosphere.
Yeah.
So that's always nice. But it was cool to hear from the guys. Like they got that feeling and they got that appetite for this hunger and that type of dominating win, and to perform like that, I think it'll be good going forward.
What's amazing is we had kind of alluded to that. If they play well, it could be a 2-score plus game.
Yep.
I didn't know if it'd be like that. But
I mean, this could have.
It didn't even feel like the game wasn't even as close as the final score.
No.
And if they weren't robbed on a PI and an interception that may or may not have happened,
may or may not have.
Well, okay.
Berm's got photographic evidence of it.
Listen, I'm there. I don't know what did they say on television, Nicole, about the roughing the passer on Kenyatta, because falling on a quarterback in college is not a penalty. Like that's the NFL rule. He was tackling him as he threw the football.
The ball was still in his hand when contact was made.
I don't know what he didn't hit him in the head. Like his own guy hit him in the head.
Well, they were reeling on the broadcast anyway because they completely ignored the pass interference initially until they went to the replay review, and he was like, "Oh, by the way,
he's being tackled.
This should have been called pass interference on the field." Like Chris and Kirk decided that they didn't need to acknowledge that in any way, and
Jeremiah still almost caught that one-handed while being mugged.
But those 2 calls, the one interception, the reverse of the other, like it could have easily been 56-10. So they get 77 yards or 73 on the last drive, kind of garbage. You played all 4 quarterbacks, for heaven's sake. I mean, everybody's getting in the game.
Toby Wilson was out there.
Yeah, everybody was getting snaps. You get a snap. You get a snap.
I think, was that the most our backups played all year almost?
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I wore the gloves. Ryan,
put me in.
McAfee goes, these gloves aren't going to keep you warm, but I'm like, if James needs me in the game, I'll be ready to go.
For 3 snaps in crunch time.
Yeah, just get out there. I've got my game gloves on.
That would have earned you a Roosters Buckeye League, but instead you just had to stay on the sideline, Bob. Nicole, you don't have a notebook out here, so where are you hiding your Buckeye Leaf?
Well, there were some pretty exciting things. No, I want to give it to Ryan Day.
Yes.
I feel like there were some really brutal comments made about him after November 30th, and the pressure of that, and for him to come through and to finally see a smile on his face again and excitement, like it was towards, I want to say like the beginning of the 4th. It was physically visible, just the look on his face, like he was starting to enjoy it again. Yeah. And just on the guys too. And player wise, I want to give it to Jack Sawyer, just because senior played incredibly well, just like he did last week. His passion, and I know that more than anything, he wanted to leave on a win. He also told ESPN, which we got a national shout out. So, I mean, just the fact he told ESPN, he goes, I mean, I can't even go into my favorite restaurant, Pickerington Roosters, without people bringing up the November 30th.
How much of that NIL deal cost you, Nicole?
No. Well, we're gonna give him a gift.
He's
for
got
sure.
some gift cards.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it was just his kindness, his love for Roosters, and just he played. He gave it his all. Mm-hmm. Hey, it's okay.
I saw him today. I was like, how about that stiff arm he gave you? I said, come on, like. You think I'm going to come in here and stroke you off, dude? You got 2 sacks. You did all this stuff.
Put-ups.
Like,
You're doing put-ups right now, Bobby.
You don't need me to tell you you're great. The stats told you that. The game film tells you that. He was coming off a block. I mean, it was a tough play. And he was long, dude. Nico, the one thing that those guys said, they're like, he kept coming. Like, for being a 6'5", 180-pound quarterback or whatever he is, he was tough. I'll give him credit. Yeah.
He had no choice because Ohio State was hurting everyone else on their roster.
Could have sat out.
He could have.
When his helmet cracked, he had a chance.
Yeah.
Cody didn't get that. I would have wanted that to put on my wall.
Yeah. Just a piece of it.
Just give me the helmet with the crack in it. Like, what are we talking about?
So, trophy hunting. That aggression from Ryan Day, Nicole, like we spent the last 2 years like talking about Peach Bowl Ryan and Georgia Ryan Day. Like, can he rediscover that? I think we got a new shorthand. That's just Rocky Top Ryan, just going after it. Like, that's what you got to see. See it in the Rose Bowl. See if you can duplicate that. Brad, who would you award your Buckeye Leaf?
I got a couple. I'm just gonna give one giant one to the entire D line. I think it was great to see a ton of rotation because obviously Jack and JT had a great game, but
Tyleek played really well.
We rotated so much. Tyleek was always at the quarterback. Kenyatta, and I think it was. You saw how much beneficial it is. One, I think that second D line has just had a great trajectory the entire season, but you just saw it didn't matter who was in, whether it was Caden Curry, Kenyatta. I can't think of the backup D tackles off. the top of my head.
Houston out
Yeah,
there.
all those guys. Like everybody, like the entire time, that O-line was in hell the entire game, and the fact that you could rotate and keep it fresh, you weren't only getting pressure with the ones in, I think was great. And then my second one is going to go to Travion. I mean, for some reason, people love to give him a lot of negativity, and he just continues to have an unreal year that no one's giving him, I think, enough credit for. I think it was 140 yards on 14 touches, and he just continues to go out there and play for his team and play for the brothers beside him. And I love his attitude and everything. And he gets a little bit more negativity for no reason I can see, but he continues to just go and play. And I wanted to see him win like that in his last game in the shoe.
I'm with Brad on that too, guys. I
that
totally
final
agree.
touchdown was a work of art.
Yeah. Oh, his yeah.
I mean, the first one was good too.
Yeah.
The vision.
The second effort.
Yeah. The patience and just finding it.
Zip, zip, zip. He was good. I mean, all of the seniors, the guys that came back, and I don't know if you got a chance. I mean, JT was great. Jack was great. Tyleek, Emeka, and Trey, like Fryer, like all of those guys played incredibly well. Cody Simon.
Number 4 is good too.
It's terrible. Listen, number 4 was great. I'd like to Chip and Ryan, unbelievable play calling. Justin Fry, like who gets crapped on all the time, like seemed to play pretty well in that game.
Luke Montgomery. Yeah.
So that's what
Great game.
On Trey's first touchdown, Luke drives their defensive tackle into the ground.
Buried him.
Tegra, I thought, played pretty well in the game.
On Quinshon's second touchdown, Tegra puts a guy
they
6 feet under.
They had a great double team, boom, drive
Rack,
off. And, then you had the rotation with Ceravon in there. Carson played well. I thought, that was the best the offensive line had played. And
they looked violent coming off the ball on the run.
And maybe that's just the fact, hey, guys, we're going to roll some dudes. We got to go. Okay? And Luke, I thought, maybe brought some of that edge, and Ryan touched on it. I want to make sure that he gets that because we talked about, I don't think I envisioned this being my career path here, but that's sometimes how it works. But to watch it, Mecca, and there's a clip of him that's floated around social media with Brandon Ennis coming up to him, and he's soak it in. And you could see him looking around and seeing the crowd and just trying to take it in one last time before you head up the tunnel. Because once you go up there, man, it's it. It's over. And those guys all deserved it. They all played incredibly well. And there's going to be so much more for the young guys. And honestly, Ryan, and then I saw Nina afterwards, which I didn't realize she had a twin, which is amazing.
I was stunned.
Wow. So this is my sister. And I'm like,
I said it's cold down here. Is my brain frozen? I'm seeing 2 Ninas
we're
over
twins.
there.
I'm like, I could see that. I mean, striking similarities. But just so happy, like you said, Nicole, for Ryan, and then her, the lift of that. And Ryan's been saying it to the team, just get some momentum. Well, they got momentum early in that game, and now they have momentum, I think, heading out west.
Absolutely.
Well, the quarterback has not been mentioned yet, so I will add him to the pile.
Oh, Billy always gets his flowers, too.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, but not just for the throws he made, and he was phenomenal, not just for some of the, the runs and the toughness that he showed in this game. The bounce back from November 30th, he's done this all along. It's not new. He's never lacked in self-confidence, self-belief. Every time there's been adversity for him, whether that you have to go compete in spring, okay, no problem. Adversity against Oregon, the final second, the 1 yard, all of that. The pick 6 against Penn State to start the game. Every time there's been a challenge to him when things have not gone well, Brad, it's easy to fold, to not, I can still do this. He goes out and he takes accountability every time. He goes to the press conference every time, including after that last loss. I talked about it last week. Ohio State never lost faith in his ability to go lead them. And more importantly, Will Howard did not lose confidence in himself.
I mean, we've talked. I feel like we've talked about his bounce back ability before. He's very entertaining to watch play the game. Not when he's actually playing, just in between it on the sideline. He loves the game of football and he loves his teammates. And I think just the energy and attitude he has, it means a lot. And it's, I think, an undervalued trait in quarterbacks, just to always have that energy and go. Everyone was giving him a hard time for his stamping out the cigarette and how it's. You want to be that for your teammates. You want to be that spark and that energy. And that's, I think, a big reason why Coach Day brought him in this season, because you knew that with him. And I think you can't measure that the entire season.
You can't. It was awesome. It was phenomenal. Those are the Roosters Buckeye leaves. These, though, are onion feathers, Bob.
These are my son Caleb's favorite.
They're so good.
And they're $3
tomorrow. Today's Monday, tomorrow, Tuesday,
just making sure you
appetizer
guys are
Thursday.
On
Obviously,
We are,
Thursday.
so
till
tomorrow-
4:15.
Correct.
The kitchen will
Hey,
close,
Great job, Austin. I
and the
love it.
location
Yes.
will close at 5.
Mhm.
So you can maybe
Yes. Order
get
is
'em
last
early.
order in at
get it in
4:15.
at 4:15. You'll have
Yes.
45 minutes. To take
Santa,
advantage.
I heard, loves.
You set
onion
him out.
feathers.
You set him out for him. He likes the plucking sauce.
That's so good. It's delicious.
You
A
don't
smother
wanna miss it.
minute.
So they will be $3 on Christmas Eve, which is an appetizer Thursday.
Yes, and then regular hours, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, because of the games and everything.
And there's
so,
still time.
to get the gift cards.
Yes.
If you need last minute gifts, which
Stocking
I know
stuffers.
there are a lot of people running around getting last minute gifts. For every $50 in Roosters gift cards you buy, you get a $10 bonus buck.
You get to
So-
give and receive.
Yes, exactly.
The best thing that you can have in life. We will not be at Roosters next Monday because Berm and I will be in Los Angeles. For the
Which is
Rose
a great
Bowl.
thing. We're going to the Rose Bowl.
It's your favorite
Buckeyes
place
the
to
Rose
go.
Bowl.
So I have a lot of things that I could say about that, but I won't because I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to cover the rematch against Oregon.
Exactly.
What's going to happen, Nicole?
So I've been thinking about this. I just think that when you're the team that lost originally, we just have that fuel. And that's an advantage that any losing team has, is the fuel, like, we're not going to lose again.
Mhm.
So, and the momentum we're working off of from this past weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give my score prediction.
Okay.
If you're,
I'm
I
ready for
really
it.
was feeling it this morning. I was
know,
thinking
I'm
about
ready.
it, and so I say 35-28.
35-28.
Yes.
I didn't even thought it's so.
You don't have to do that yet, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
I'm
We
just
need some
giving mine
time.
because I won't be around next week. But I was thinking about it, and I love that it's a rematch because I just feel like that alone is giving us so much more energy
Yeah.
and just kind of like how the guys were this past weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Huge game. Maybe the de facto national championship. Who knows? We'll get into that in the second half of the show as Berm slides in here to replace Nicole Cox, who's going to finish up her holiday planning.
Happy holidays.
Do you have anything left?
guys.
As much as you
Guys,
plan.
I'm always
things?
trying to perfect things. You
Okay,
know,
all right.
always trying to make them great.
All right. Well, we'll let you get to that, and we're going to be right back in here to talk more about Ohio State dominating Tennessee at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint.
Roosters has been so fortunate. We just want to be able to give some of that back to the community.
They donate to organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long time.
They always go above and beyond to help support our foundation to further help veterans.
It's just a wonderful feeling to know that Roosters supports the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Welcome back into Roosters' second half of the show. Berm has arrived. How are the vibes?
Good vibes.
Good.
How could there not be good vibes? That's what everyone's been waiting to see. I want to congratulate Ohio State and Tennessee for playing the only playoff game of the weekend, number one. I think that's important. The other games were home games for the other teams, and Ohio State and Tennessee actually felt like a playoff game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, you agree?
Well, it was close. You had a large contingent of fans there, like from Tennessee, came up, like a little hostility. I think that honestly lit the fire in the
I
Buckeye
agree.
fans.
I totally
Like,
agree.
I think it was good.
I
You didn't
saw-
think it?
I was
Indiana
amazed,
Notre
though.
Dame felt like.
I don't think Indiana. Look, no SMU fans went to Penn State.
No.
There aren't any Indiana fans, and no Clemson fans went to Texas. So I mean, I really think this was the one game of the weekend that felt like a wild card game in the
Well, it
NFL.
felt kind of like a region, like because there's a regionality to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's drivable. Like it's Cleveland, Pittsburgh, or like when you get those close games like that. Said if I was a Tennessee fan, like I'm getting in my car, I'm driving 4.5.
I'm
If
convinced Ohio State fans would have done the exact same
And they
thing.
got to leave early to beat the traffic,
Which
so
is
it was
great.
a positive.
The
They
one thing
missed Rocky Top actually being on the
The
speaker.
one thing I was impressed with them was the amount of East and West Campus lot passes they got.
No, that's the crazy part.
I told someone I can get you tickets.
Right.
I can find some tickets. Lot passes, good
They
lot
were
passes.
actually they had tailgating lots set up like that's where I'm like, man, Ohio State fans really dropped the ball here.
Soldier lot
You
passes.
saw like that. That's what was crazy. You're letting them get like we walked in, there were like 8 spots in a
Yes.
row that
Yeah.
were just
All
all
lined
Tennessee fans. We're like, man, that was crazy. But overall, the weekend, I mean, I think Ross Bjork deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah.
I think as you mentioned, like some of the in-game atmosphere is just a byproduct of the CFP not allowing the same sponsors to ruin the in-game experience.
Well, they still had Knocker Ball.
Knocker Ball's awesome.
It's your favorite.
No, it's
Austin.
not.
Knocker balls. If we're gonna say any of it's worth it, it's knocker ball. I'm so over the Brutus race. I'm sorry.
I think they should put
what I
knocker
would
ball in
like
midfield.
is if they have the drone. Maybe we could after the drone show.
Oh boy,
we have the drone attack, and you have someone out there, and they try to attack.
Well, some of those
Actually,
were falling
I did
out of
see.
the sky.
Not to be negative, I don't know where it was. I did see a news story of a kid in the hospital because a drone show hit him.
They're not here.
I don't
right?
think
we're far away.
It wasn't
happening.
in Ohio, but it did happen recently.
We saw a few falling out of formation.
Yeah, of course.
That's going to happen. It was really cold out. Those things are running on batteries, and it's really cold. I think knocker ball should be at midfield, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, if you're gonna, also hold on. If you're gonna play knocker ball, you can't avoid contact. That was some of the weakest knocker ball I've ever seen.
I think again, it was very cold. I think people are having a tough time.
Warm you up inside there.
People are having a tough time
igloo.
putting the ball on. But overall, this is what you wanted to see from Ohio State all year. It's frustrating. I think I was talking to Tom Orr from Buckeye Huddle on Saturday night as we were on the sideline, and he said he was trying to come up with the word that properly encapsulated pure joy and pure rage at the same time. And what is the word?
Perfektenschlag.
Maybe. Okay. I'm not going to dismiss
joy
it. Joy
and rage?
Because the anger of where the hell was this? But also thank God this is happening.
It's the
dichotomy of man.
It is the bicameral mind. The two things can be true. I'm incredibly happy that this is happening, but yet still angry of why it didn't happen before.
See, I choose to just focus on the present and the future.
Well, that was
and just be happy and be ready to go to Pasadena.
That has to be the choice.
Because you're Pollyannic. I mean, who wants to be a negative Nancy?
That has to be the choice you make. Saturday was everything that we've been waiting to see from Ohio State on offense, on defense. Will Howard. I had people in my close family who were like, I'm convinced Will can't throw the ball in the cold. I'm like, why would you think that?
He's from Pennsylvania.
He played at Kansas State. There's literally zero evidence to support what you're saying.
There's film of him throwing a ball in the snow, snow games.
If he could, they would have thrown it against Michigan. Well, I don't think he should have been playing. And also,
I'm convinced he can't throw when he's concussed.
That's
two times in that game against Michigan where he actually was given the opportunity to just cut loose. He threw the ball really, really well. So I was like, I'm not sure where you're getting some of I understand the angst, but who had a worse weekend, Tennessee fans or Kirk Herbstreit? I'm sorry, but I'm being redundant. So Kirk Herbstreit clearly is a Tennessee fan.
I was picking up what you were putting down.
But
thanks, Tim.
What an absolutely idiotic way for Kirk Herbstreit to handle the weekend.
Here's the one thing.
He started it terribly on Saturday night, and he ended it even worse by saying that we shouldn't care about wins anymore.
Well, he actually began that on Friday night.
The wins matter. I was a big fan of Alabama Jones, though. Alabama Jones was maybe one of my favorite characters.
Shane Gillis is one of the funniest people on the planet, and the fact that he sat there like this to Nick Saban and called him Alabama Jones was
the fact that Nick the next day doubled down on it and went to his black uniform and wore one again.
If he would have shown up with a whip, it would have been the best.
He handled it well.
He did.
For what I would expect.
Well, and then the fact that he told me he had the highest paid roster in college football when he was coaching.
Yeah.
It was so good. Shane Gillis was great. Probably the best part of the game. And there was a lot of good parts to choose from. And you were down there. Did you come down at the end of the game, Austin? Was the Rocky Top. Because I said I was going to bring the JBL speaker and taunt the fans, and I forgot it. I did bring the binoculars for age. I remember those. And then they played it at the end anyway into the mics, into the record skip.
Sha-na-na-na.
Oh, so beautiful. And then they cut it out, and you could hear the whole stadium singing it, just deadpan while Tennessee was right there at the end of the game. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, the emotions of that in the final couple minutes were great. I think if it was 70, 75,000, whatever, the true believers that were there and stuck all the way through with they were rewarded with a really special night and a special performance.
They put those Nikes on, they drank the Kool-Aid, they went to see the Comet.
And I think that part was awesome. The only thing that was missing was that Berm was trying to get Jack Sawyer to plant the flag at midfield.
I asked him. I'll give Jack.
He took the Ohio against the world flag and went around the stadium, but he did not take the giant flag.
You know what? And that's why I like Jack.
It's a step in the right direction.
It is. He didn't want to get arrested. That could be a felony.
There were 9 minutes.
Class 5 felony.
There were 9 minutes left in the game, and so Jack is my Buckeye of the game, Buckeye Leaf, whatever you want to call it. And it's not because of the game he played, though he played great. So there was a moment about right after Travion scored his Ohio State's final touchdown, right?
Yeah, so sweet.
The offensive line was coming off the field, and Justin Fry grabbed Tegra Shabola and was very much like Tegra looked emotional at that moment. Like I'm going to be honest, I've not rewatched the game, so I don't know like play by play if he had a big block on that play or something.
Oh, he did. I think he did.
He came off field and looked like a kid who was like going to break down. Like he was emotional because I know when he got yanked in the first half, that had to have been difficult. Came back in the second half, played really well. Justin came over and was in his face and hugging him, and they were, had a moment. And the only other person that came over was Jack Sawyer, who had no business being on that side of the sideline.
It happened right in front of me, and I didn't know what was going on. I went back and looked, and you could tell, but like Jack talked to him.
And Jack, because the defense is on the other side of the sideline, right? So Jack had to matriculate his way over there, and did the exact same thing, and was in Tegra's face. And so Jack was there, not in his face in a bad way, but just being a supportive teammate. And Jack was there, and he was wandering around. And I looked at him. I'm like, come here. So I got him to come over, which, we're on the sideline.
Hey, you got nothing to do?
We're on the sideline. We're not supposed to be talking to the team. The game is over.
Of course you're not.
Unless it was the specialist.
I may have talked to Berm and other people quite often throughout games, but that's
you
different.
were standing by the net the whole time. So he came over. There's like 9 minutes left in the game. I said, Jack, the end of your Ohio State career in Ohio Stadium can be defined in an iconic photo if you take the flag and reclaim Ohio Stadium for the state of Ohio at the end of this game. And he looked at me and he goes, oh my God, this is my last game in Ohio Stadium. So he had forgotten at that moment. And so then I tried, but the way that
your delivery was wrong.
I don't know. I mean,
I tried to appeal to his
emotions. That's pretty important.
To his emotions and his arrogance to say we're going to get you a photo of you in the center of Ohio Stadium as a Columbus kid with the flag and your
not arrogance, not vanity,
his ego, whatever.
I think even just picking it up and taking a lap around the field is I like that. That to me was good enough.
He was great. JT was great. It was. Watching those two dominate a game together for the first time, honestly, in their careers was so I know I'll be accused of the scarlet glasses or whatever, but the people who deserve credit for this are obviously the players who put it out there. But Ryan Day and his staff to get everyone to move forward, to bounce back after that Michigan loss in the way that they did. Like the defensive line played its best game of the year. The offensive line did not play perfect, but what we saw out of Luke Montgomery and even I keep going back to this Josh Padilla moment in the fourth quarter where he's on the field for the first time.
It's like fighting people
and trying to get and somebody.
It was amazing. I was like, "What is Padilla? Who is that over there?"
I'm like, "That's what you have to see." Now, the Oregon game is going to be different. Oregon's defensive line is much closer to Michigan's because they are stout in the middle, and they have a good defensive ends. Not great, but they are stout in the middle. So that's a different challenge.
Like Tennessee's isn't bad.
No, it's good. It's good, but it's not Michigan elite at defensive tackle, and Oregon is close to that. So that is it's a different challenge. But for those guys to be ready the way they were with all of the talk in the last 2 weeks about how bad they were, about how stupid the idea of rotating guards was, they just all stood up and played exceptionally well. And the guy who I always go back to, and I think he's like the silent heartbeat of this team, is Travion Henderson, who does so many things and doesn't start the game. Quinshawn's out there, and then Travion gets in there, and then boom, 8 yards, boom, out of the backfield, making the 27-yard catch on the wheel route on the first drive.
Great.
He does things that.
Well, that was the first play after the third down. Dude, it was a chunk, and you're like, okay, let's go now.
And kudos to Ohio State for realizing this is how we have to attack. And Chip Kelly, Ryan Day, the entire staff, that was as well prepared a game as Ohio State has since the Clemson game of 2020, without question, as far as knowing exactly where you were going and what you were doing. Now, again, it's the pissed off joy that you felt. Where was it? Who cares? It's if now it can be there. So now it's about how do you prepare for Oregon.
You can be critical, but then they do it great. You have to give them the credit. I think the biggest thing too with the O-line is because I had no issues with the rotating and how it went, especially if you rotated a lot of other positions. But also, if you think about how the O-line's broken down throughout the year, because everyone's like, oh, the running backs aren't getting enough yards. The O-line's had all the issues with injuries. This was the first extended period where they actually got time to work as a unit. Because you think when Seth went down, you didn't have much time, and then it was immediately into the Michigan week.
Stuff
Different
went
mindset
down
there.
Tuesday at practice.
Michigan week, Thanksgiving week.
Week, different mindset, and then so now you finally had an extended period to actually sit there, get together with the unit. I think Coach Fry did an amazing job getting those guys ready to play.
Well, I think they leaned into what the guys do well too. I mean, they started
a little more gap scheme stuff.
More gap scheme, polling. You'd see those double teams. You gap scheme, you double team. They're driving guys off the ball.
Counters, misdirections as well to change.
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job with backfield action.
Moving Will around.
But there was movement. There was movement up front regardless of what was happening. And so the second level stuff, that's more for the backers to be able to do backfield action. But when they were getting those gap scheme, the double teams, and being able to lean into that, like it's what these guys, I think, do well. Mm-hmm. And so they were getting a chance to do it. They worked together. To Brad's point, like it's the first time where they've actually had that period, that couple weeks. Go figure it out and go see what you can do. And now they've got a little bit of a layoff, a little bit of extended time.
10 days is a nice break.
It is.
It's a good amount.
It's
of
like
time.
a mini buy.
It's not too much, but it's also enough to get healed up.
Give you a couple days to figure out maybe some wrinkles, some things.
Something they didn't see the first time.
Yeah, like how can we do that? Get a practice or two in, take Christmas off, and then boom, dive into it. And they're heading out there, and it's not your classic bowl game, and they're out there for like 3 days.
Yeah,
I mean, this is kind of what
it's
it is.
Much better.
Well, better for you, the players.
I think it's better for everybody.
No, I like to go and getting drunk at the places and hang out.
They don't do that.
They don't do that anymore, Bob.
It's terrible. I know. It's like society's gone to hell.
They don't do that anymore before
Maybe the
game.
long snapper. I don't.
Okay, no, there's like a 3-day window before the game. You know,
I feel
those
like
first couple of days out there, you got 8. Like we used to get out there 8 days before.
Yes.
Okay, but now you don't. So now you don't have those days.
Not that I ever did that, Mom and Dad.
Now you have to risk being dehydrated. I mean, Tennessee was clearly dehydrated on Saturday night.
All this sports science.
But they were tough. They had their shirts off.
I think they were dehydrated on Saturday. I don't think because they're not used to. I know. Oh, Tennessee's not. Knoxville isn't Miami. I get it, but people do believe if it's cold, you don't have to drink as much water.
You're just not as thirsty,
right.
But you still are exerting and sweating.
And I know that was actually a focus for Mick Marotti on Thursday, so maybe it made a difference. But also,
Berm thought the game was over when they came out shirtless.
That's exactly right.
It's the stupidest thing to do.
It really, I tell people, because then it's just wear your normal stuff. Yeah. Like Jack Sawyer did the walk with a t-shirt, on. That's him, and it's fine. You know, some of the guys wore sleeves on the D line and O line.
When they came out shirtless, all Vaselined up, I'm like, this stunt right here, they're not going to win this game. Like they were not serious.
It means you're acknowledging the cold.
Serious.
You're acknowledging the cold then.
Yeah.
And also, you're dropping your core body temperature in a game where you are going to need to be warm. Like it is.
Berm the physiologist.
It was stupid. It was just stupid.
He's learning from you.
Yeah. And I was convinced at that moment. I was on the fence a little
bit. So wait,
bit.
is that what you're going to school for?
Yeah, I'm a physiologist.
So let me ask you this: if I do shots of Fireball, does that heat it back up?
Technically, it increases circulation, I guess.
Yes,
so in
that's
a
what I'm
sense,
saying. Alcohol thins the blood out, right? Maybe hit a couple Zins in there to
really spike up.
Level. All right.
Cognitively, you'd be really sharp.
I was convinced that the game was over at that, and I was on the fence pregame. I didn't really know where.
You almost didn't come.
I didn't know.
I didn't talk Bourbon showing up.
I didn't know.
Kind of.
A little bit. It's not because I just didn't want to go. I didn't want to stand outside for 8 hours in that cold. But whatever, I did it, and I didn't have to pretend I was tough to do so.
I felt more like Berm on Saturday because it felt like a true crossroads moment for the program, and it was like I don't know what the next 9 months are going to be like if Ohio State doesn't deliver its best performance.
You know what stinks?
The sun wouldn't rise, obviously.
There's a chance that the world would have spun backwards.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't know because it's uncertain.
It is uncertain because they hadn't delivered that performance all year. Hadn't delivered that performance in 4 years. So now the question is,
well, I feel like they've had a couple crossword before. Like Penn State was supposed to be that one, and then
but even that was not like this level of
Penn State game easily should have been like this and could have been like this, and it wasn't. And it was good to see them start hot but then finish it.
But now there's a different challenge, right? Like now you've hit that high. So now how do you respond to that? Because the question all the last 3 weeks was, how does this program respond? How do you come back from the Michigan game? Now the question is, how do you make sure you maintain, right? Yeah. Because this is what everyone thought you could be, and here you finally put it on display.
The standard is the standard.
And now you go play Oregon.
You've shown the standard. Like that's what I tell some young, like whenever you play, I forget who told me that. And like when I first started playing more my sophomore year, and like, okay, well now you've shown it. Now it's every week.
Yep.
consistency is now the expectation. So go get that done and go be a big time player. And hopefully that confidence that they have, everything that these guys got to experience and all of that, like, that should help. Honestly, if you would have said, would you rather have a bye or had this performance, I would have rather had this game.
Absolutely. Carry the momentum forward. So how can they duplicate that? What's the most important part of getting revenge against Oregon, Brad?
Don't change anything. Whatever they did these past 2.5 weeks, keep it going the same way. Don't view it as a revenge game. Just view it as a game you got to win to get to your goals. Like, don't make it something because you're rematching. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's happened in the past where a lot of times we focus on, we need to do this. Like,
you're like my kids. Rematch is not a verb. I mean, like reversing.
All right.
It's like reversing. It's okay.
Moving past
you're getting
Bobby's
a PhD. You're getting a PhD
in science, not grammar in English. So moving past, I think we put too much emphasis. A lot of times it happens in the off season too, with the off season programs of, we gotta fix this and fix. I'm like, or we just focus on doing what we need to do in the future well. And I think that was the idea going into the Tennessee game. And I think they need to continue that and not make it something because we're playing Oregon again.
You know what we need
in
to
a
do?
rematch.
That's good. So playing them in a rematch. You know what we can get done? You can head down there and we can figure out how to make a field goal of distance. And then also we need to get more out of the punt game. We didn't have many punts, but we need better. I'm worried that will come back and bite us again if we do not play better on special teams. When you win a game like that and you dominate, it's not a big deal. But
the only part of post game where I did a double take was Ryan Day said that they were fielding it more cleanly on special teams, and I was like, no,
Caleb dropped one.
No, they sure did
and that's
not.
That's part of it too.
Like,
but
that cannot happen.
The punt situation, we didn't really flip the field. Now we got a roll. It hit. I think it hit. They said it hit Jermaine Matthews' foot, maybe. Yeah. But I thought the execution to be able to get a 56-yard field goal was good. We've got to find a way to make the 56-yard field goal. I know it's cold. I know it sucks.
Yeah. The operation wasn't the cleanest from the specialist, and I've already told them
because they're down there talking to Berm.
Yeah. I don't
talk to specialists anymore.
It's interesting being a specialist in the cold game. I actually will prefer a cold over extreme heat because I can do something about it. The fun part is those tryhards that are shirtless. They like to get all Vaselined up, and then you go to snap. Liam told me about this years ago in the first cold game. I'm like, you're joking, right? He goes, no, the ball has Vaseline on it.
Oh, actually, guys,
didn't know what he talked about till like I got into my first cold weather games. You go to snap an extra point after touchdown. Running back has all Vaseline to keep him warm. Mm-hmm. To the point where old Berm's boy Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase had a whole moment on an interview where Joe Burrow told Jamar he's not throwing him the ball if he puts Vaseline on it because it does become a factor.
Oh yeah.
So you get down there, you go to snap a ball. I think I saw John. From the snapper in the second half, tell the ref to wipe the ball, and he started in the second half. But you get down there, there'll be Vaseline on the ball, and it's not fun to deal with. Not giving them an excuse,
that's real though.
Because the first punt, the operation wasn't clean. Joe had to field it and get it out fast.
You need to call up whoever the snapper was for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the '90s and mid 2000s with Jay Peasy, Joey Porter over there. Because if they ever got, I guess he's on defense, so it wouldn't have mattered as much. But that dude had more shine on than anybody else I've ever seen.
I can't believe that Brad was the first one to mention the Bengals on the show and not Berm.
Yeah, he's happy.
We talked about it before the show.
We're still alive.
You go back to that kick, and I mentioned this on Snap Judgments on Saturday night. But
Snappy Jays.
I think that moment, that was all you needed to know about Ryan Day's mindset that night, because they could have very easily taken a knee with 35 seconds to go. And said, you know what, screw it. We're going to try to put ourselves in a position. And then when you talk about what do they have to do to win against Oregon, it's that.
I'm going to argue with you on that. I think he didn't. This is my one critique of Coach Day during that game, is they handed it off to Travion, and we're like, oh, shit, he just got 15 yards. Now we're in a position.
I think that was let's see if we can get it.
I would have just rather had, just come out, let Will sling it in that one.
I would normally agree, but they were clearly expecting Ohio State to either take a knee or try to pass the ball. And so I think that the draw, as we saw with Michigan, was the right call because you got 15. Clock stops after the first down inside of the 2 minutes. I thought that was the perfect call to set up that sort of drive. Now, my one nitpick, and I said it again on Snap Judgments, was once you're at the 40, just throw the ball to Jeremiah Smith and see what happens. You have a better chance of scoring on a Hail Mary than making a 56-yard field goal in that environment with that weather. So
I will say I did like
– but just the aggression was the right
final
decision.
play where – and it's what they didn't have against Oregon – is you saw Will, bing, bing, check it down to Trey, go run, slide, burn your timeout. That's the Oregon. That's what they needed against Oregon. That's the play that you needed there, the check down for 8 yards, burn the timeout, and get rolling. So get that cleaned up. and they'll be good because everything else was about as flawless you're going to get.
But the aggression was what had to be there heading into this game, and it was. And now you just have to not revert.
Yeah.
You can't regress to the mean here.
It's easy to be aggressive when you're up like we were, but I hope and I think we would have done the same thing if it was a tie game or we were down. Because at this point is you have to know you're a good team and you have to play like it. And that's the biggest thing is it goes all the way back to Urban Meyer's days. I mean, I'm sure Bobby was around this. In these matchup games, Urban always said it doesn't have to be close. Don't ever play like it needs. Like, play like you're going to kick their ass, and that's the best thing.
If I have one overarching complaint about the Ryan Day era, it's that he has regularly deferred too much to the opponent and saying, well, this team's good, so we have to play different. Like, you don't. You could just be who you are. And who Ohio State is at their best, we saw on Saturday. And so now there's no excuse not to be.
I will say this. I'm not a huge Dave Portnoy fan on everything. I enjoy some of his stuff.
I got to meet him on Saturday. It was interesting.
Nice. How'd that go?
Did you eat pizza together?
No.
He gave Ohio State some good advice.
He did have a great tweet where he said, Tennessee came in thinking they were going to take over the shoe, and Ohio State treated them like Kent State.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I had to give credit on that one.
That's a pretty solid tweet right there, buddy.
It worked. Who's going to win the Rose Bowl, Brad?
Obviously, I'm wearing my 2022 Rose Bowl champion hat. I have fond memories at the Rose Bowl, game-winning kick, game-winning snap. So I'm Buckeyes all the way, obviously, and have good memories there. So,
Bob,
you're not gonna give a score?
It's too far. It's too far out to give a score.
I just want to know who's going to win.
Is there another game?
I struggle with grammar and math.
It's too far. I mean,
all right, 42-31. Buckeyes.
Okay, that's a high-scoring game. It will be nice. Weather should be good. I'll say. Let's say 31-21.
31-21.
As someone who's played games against people you've already played in that season before, does it normally skew a higher scoring or lower scoring when you get a rematch?
Gosh, that's a great question. We played Philly. We beat them 3 times in my last year in Dallas. It was higher scoring for us the last time. We were able to get it done. But I don't know if there's a trend to that.
I'd like to find that out.
It's very interesting because you have to probably look more NFL. I don't think college you're going to be able to find as much.
Vegas probably's got those odds somewhere.
Yeah. Well, they like Ohio State in this game. So
that's why when it came out, I was like,
it's moved to 2.5.
Yeah, came out. I said originally Oregon -1, and then it's
moved 3.5 points.
-1.5, and
now it's up to 2.5 for Ohio State.
I got way too much time before that game, and we're going to be out in LA, so I'm not doing any predictions at this point.
Okay,
we get time to get more nervous.
Yeah,
he'll get there. Thank you to Roosters for having us in here on Henderson Road. Great stuff. You still have time to get some onion feathers on Tuesday. Appetizer Tuesday closes at 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve. Hope everybody has some happy holidays and a Merry Christmas this week. Again, thanks to Nicole Cox and the team. Thanks to Bradley Robinson for hanging out, Bobby Carpenter, and Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Thanks for joining us for this show at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint. Enjoy the Rose Bowl. If you only watch the Roosters show, we won't have it again until afterwards.
Well, Merry Christmas before then.
So enjoy
Merry
it.
Christmas.
We'll talk to you later. See ya.